Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Daily Show. How is everybody doing today on this beautiful Thursday, February the 3rd, 2022? I have a jam-packed show. I have a lot to get to. For the first time ever, I'm going to be doing 2 articles because I think they're important, and I got some cleanup work and some things to do beforehand I even get to those articles. So we're going to be jumping in pretty quickly here. Before we get into any of that, as always, if you like what you hear here, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars wherever you are, and spread this word of mouth. Tell people that this is a great show. Your shares, your word of mouth, all that matters in the long run for getting this show more popular and spreading more information, getting more articles, getting more news out there, because not everybody has the time to sit down and read articles. Things are hectic, but a lot of times people are finding the time to throw a headphone in and listen to something. So this is a way for me to provide news. I feel like there's a lot of places that provide a lot of snippets and it kind of works in their favor. They throw a snippet out there, they make their point, they move on. I read them in full because I think it's important that you hear them being read in full. So we're going to get going right away. I have some cleanup work to do. If you listen to the Alex Cuesta show yesterday, with my brother David, we were talking about the Freedom Convoy in Canada, and he mentioned something that he thought the Gofundme page had been frozen, and indeed it did. I found the Fox News article on it. John Brown wrote it. Gofundme freezes Canadian Freedom Convoy page after it raises $10 million. I think it officially raised $10.1 million. And their reason was the fundraiser is currently paused and under review to ensure it complies with our terms of service and applicable laws and regulations. Our team is working 24/7 and doing all we can to protect both organizers and donors. Thank you for your patience. So we've seen this before. We've seen that GoFundMe has held the rights to freeze basically political combatants as they want to. They're not going to freeze anybody on the left, but if you're considered on the right, they're going to freeze you. They freed Kyle Rittenhouse's page to raise funds for his trial to pay for his lawyer. They're freezing this one because this is a right-leaning movement. This is very badly veiled. And I don't want to hear the libertarian, oh, they're a private company. They could do what they want. Agreed. I guess they can, but it's still wrong. And it's not a secret. They keep this as good of a secret as YouTube and Twitter and Facebook do, and who they choose to take off and censor. So yeah, it's confirmed. They did freeze it. So we'll see where it goes from here. But they did freeze it. Hopefully they reopen it because it's a lot of money that these people are going to need because there's going to be people trying to sue them and things like that. So as long as the money's going towards the right place and going towards where they say it's going to go towards, that's all that matters. On to the next bit of cleanup. As we all know, I have been monitoring the IRS and ID.me, their cooperation and what's going on. The last report that I saw that I read is that the IRS is searching for an alternative, but there is still a chance that the deal goes down with ID.me. So continue to stay on top of this. Continue to stay diligent, because if it does, there's 60 million plus people that they already have is going to balloon, and they still have access to the 27 states. They're still working within the Social Security Department with their employers there. So they're already in the government, which they said is why they got this sweetheart deal from Biden. But I just want to point out something new was brought to my attention on this article. The article is from Business Insider here, and it is written by Caroline Haskins. The title is "The IRS is working with a startup called ID.me that stores the inferred citizenship of some users that creates a huge new pool of personal data for police and other authorities to tap into." That last part's scary as shit, and it's exactly what we were talking about with the digital passports and things like that. Because what it's saying is here, they are going to work with authorities and give up your information. Let's go into the article a little bit. I'll tap into some of the things. I'm not going to read the whole thing here. I'm going to do what I just kind of complained about with reading snippets. But this is kind of cleanup work here. I'm not trying to get into the full thing because I have 2 other articles I want to read. And also, I've already kept on talking about this. So I will, I told you the title. Go look it up. Do your due diligence. Continue to search. Use DuckDuckGo on this one. Don't use Google. Google, their results aren't very good. I use both. If I use Google and they're giving me shit results, I automatically go to DuckDuckGo and usually find what I want to find there. But Google it, DuckDuckGo it, look for this article from Insider. And what they said here is they They do what's called, what do they say? The inferred citizenship there. Inferred citizenship. So they use your government issued IDs and things like that, like we stated, to get to store inferred citizenship based on passport information, along with facial images, voice prints, location data, information from documents such as postal addresses, social security numbers, driver license numbers, passport card numbers, and more according to the policy. So like we said, they are storing all your information. They have it all in one place, and they're going to be able to use it and weaponize it against you. So they're not a good company. ID.me is a bad company. And again, look up if your state is using ID.me. If they are, contact your state senator and your state assemblyman, congressman, whatever the hell you have in your state. Contact them, because your federal one's not going to do shit. They can't. They're not in the state. They can make a stump speech and put pressure, but outside of that, they don't care. You need to contact your state guys and girls because they will get involved. Here's the other thing that scared me. They talked about how the police will use it. So the company says in its privacy policy, they have access. ID.me will access, preserve, and share personal information with law enforcement if asked. And here's the quote. We reserve the right to disclose your personally identifiable information as required by law. And when we believe that disclosure is necessary to protect you, our rights and or comply with a judicial proceeding, court order, or legal process. Listen to that. To protect you, necessary to protect you, we can disclose your personally identifiable information when we, the company, deem it's to protect you. All the other stuff in terms of court proceedings, court order, legal process, there was laws in there to try and block those things. It has to be an extreme case normally for governments to let that out. But let's remind everybody, this is a third party. This isn't a government. They are not going to be held to the public scrutiny. The same things that public places do, that your government agencies will do. So they don't give a shit. This is a public-private partnership. This is fascism. We're going to have all your information. And if you don't do what we say, we are going to use it against you and we are going to deperson you. You're not going to be allowed to do anything. Because right around the corner is digital currency. There's articles searching on that. I'm trying to find a good one that's not a million years long. But America's looking into going into what is called, hold on, let me pull up what it's called real quick on here. CBDC, or central bank digital currency. It is a centralized digital currency. If ID.me gets into our federal government and then we go to CBDC, you're going to need to be showing your ID.me app to pay for shit. And if you are wanted for something, if you aren't having the right ESG score, environmental social governance score, if you are somebody that thinks wrong, has wrong thing, Herbert Marcuse, repressive tolerance, if you're somebody on the left, okay, somebody on the right, fuck you. They will make sure you can't pay for things. This goes bigger than just your tax returns. So keep monitoring it. Keep monitoring it. And somebody pointed out here, who is this? Samir Jan, Director of Policy for the Center for Democracy and Technology, that told Insider the way ID.me talks about law enforcement compliance is broader than other companies. That implies that ID.me can and will comply with policy requests voluntarily, even when it's not strictly required by law or by court order. And this includes places like Google, Facebook, Apple, who have worked together. Google's been famously used to try and track down people Minority Report style. But he said, you read a lot of privacy policies that say, warning, that data we collect will be provided to law enforcement where the law requires it. He said their private policy says we will comply with this request voluntarily where the law doesn't prevent it. So ID.me is a bad company. They're a bad actor company. We need to get them out of our state governments. We need to get them out of our federal government. We need to work to get them out of there. Because them combined with the central bank digital currency, which isn't like crypto, it does not work on the blockchain. It is centralized. It is not decentralized. A centralized currency, they have control of your money 100% there. and they can stop your payments wherever they want. They could say you can only buy food. You can't buy anything else. They can fuck you. Be wary. Be diligent. Continue to monitor this. All right. So let's jump right into my two articles. I got to get going here. So first one is by Claire Duffy from CNN Business. Amazon is raising the price of annual Prime memberships to $139. $139. Think of that for Amazon Prime. Let's go. Amazon is raising the price of its annual Prime subscriptions from $119 to $139 per year in the United States. The company announced along with its earnings report Thursday. The price of monthly subscriptions will also rise from $12.99 to $14.99. The company said it is increasing the price because of, quote, expanded Prime membership benefits, unquote, such as added Prime video content and expanded free same-day shipping, as well to compensate for the rising costs of labor and transportation in its distribution network. The move comes as prices for just about everything from food and energy have gone up in recent months. Amazon's global workforce has doubled over the past 2 years to 1.6 million employees. And the company also said last year that it had increased wages for thousands of workers. So let's stop right there. They're increasing the number again. And what they said is added Prime video content. Nobody fucking asked for that. That's a you problem, number one. Number two, expanded same-day free shipping. Come on now. I still have problems with using my Prime to get the 2-day shipping on half the things. You can't do it. It's usually still, it's up to 4 or 5 days still. I'm not blaming the rank and file. The people that drive for Prime work their asses off. And the distribution centers work hard. But for them to cite one of those two reasons, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here and compensate for rising costs in labor and transportation and distribution network. Prices going up. That's on Mr. Robinette not solving the freaking supply chain, or at least alleviating it a little bit. I know people are going to point out that the supply chain started to happen under Trump, the issues. Yes, it did. Of course it did. We shut down the country for 2 weeks and extended it. There were always going to be issues coming in. But 81 million morons elected a bigger dead corpse walking moron that promised to fix this shit. It's been over a year and it hasn't gotten any better. It has not gotten any better. So yes, food and energy have gone up. And energy has gone up because the energy policy that he has is terrible. The energy policy is terrible. He shut down a pipeline that would have helped us. He depleted our energy independence. We are not the biggest exporter of energy in the world anymore. We are now a net importer. So yes, this lays on Joe Biden's feet. So, not to be one of those guys. Yeah, Biden does everything wrong. He kind of does. He sucks. But part of the reason why Prime is saying that they have to raise your shit is because of that man's policies. Don't forget that. Let's continue. The company last raised prices for Prime in 2018 when it bumped the annual membership up from $99. The latest price hike represents a 17% increase. The change will go into effect on February 18th for new Prime members and after March 25th for existing Prime members. So everybody, you have time to cancel your subscriptions. March 24th should be the last day. Here's the reason. I'll give you a reason here, and I'm going to get into a little more later probably. There's enough free shipping there. There's enough free shipping now with a lot of this stuff that you don't need a Prime membership to get free shipping. And the delivery times are not great right now. You're not getting the guaranteed 2-day that you've been paying for. Some of these things do have the expedited 1 day, but most of the things that people need, a lot of the things that, I shop for on there, and unfortunately I do use it. I might not soon, not in the Prime capacity at least. But there's a lot of things that are, you'll get these in 4 or 5 days. Then what the fuck am I paying for Prime for? It might be time to ditch Prime, everybody. It may be time to ditch Amazon. I know using it's easy, and I probably will continue to just use it for ways, but I won't pay for Prime. No point. If anything, and I use Prime Music too, the Amazon Music, and I pay for that for the extended catalog. Goodbye. I'll just go to Spotify and support Joe Rogan. So, yeah, it may be time to ditch them. There's no reason to keep them around. They're not doing their part. The people at Prime have failed their constituencies. Let's keep going. The Prime price hike wasn't the only major news in the report. This is where it gets great. The company's profits also doubled during the December end quarter from $14.3 billion, blowing past to 14.3 billion, blowing past Wall Street analysts' expectations. The huge jump in profit was largely due to the company's accounting for its investment in electric vehicle company Rivian Automotive, which had a massive IPO in November. Yeah, so they got into the electric car game and it gave them a huge boost. So they're raising their prices while they're making money hands over fist. Keep going. And while the company posted an operating loss in both its North American and international e-commerce businesses, its biggest profit driver, Amazon Web Services, reported a nearly 49% increase in operating income to $5.3 billion. Amazon Web Services also added more revenue year over year than in any other quarter in its history, Amazon CFO Brian Olsavsky said on a call with analysts Thursday. Overall sales on the quarter were up more than 9% from a year ago quarter to $137.4 billion, just shy of the $137.6 billion analysts had forecasted. Amazon shares jumped as much as 17% in after-hours trading following the report Thursday. Despite the positive initial investor reaction, some analysts noted that Amazon faces an uphill battle in the coming quarters as it combats rising costs and lapse a period in which people may have been more reliant on online shopping before COVID-19 vaccines were widely available. The company forecasted net sales growth between 3 and 8% for the first quarter of 2022, a huge decline from the nearly 44% growth in sales it posted during the same period a year earlier. So, of course, they're going to go down. As the pandemic eases up, then we're going to need them less. The places that benefited from this pandemic, Amazon was probably the biggest benefit. They got the most business out of everybody sitting at home. And then your big box stores, your big chains, your Target, your Walmart, your big stores, they all, Home Depot, Lowe's got huge boons. They all got to stay open. They didn't have the same rules as the mom and pop shops. But I'll tell you right now, there's shit going on in the background. Amazon is a partner of the World Economic Forum. Jeff Bezos is a part of that. And again, what is the World Economic Forum? They are a one world government organization where the biggest elites, your business elites, your government elites, your big tycoons, your philosophers, your big scientists, they're all there. They're all there. In 2019, the leader, Klaus Schwab, introduced Xi Jinping, and then Anthony Fauci spoke after him. So that's the who's who that's there. Klaus Schwab's a friggin' madman. They're responsible for the Great Reset, the Great Narrative, which is his new book, The Great Narrative. They're responsible for Build Back Better. They're responsible for starting the ESG shit. And Amazon's a part of them. If you don't think Amazon's going to kick and scrap and spend a shit ton of lobbying money to keep up policies in the Freudian slip, the Obama-Biden White House, we all know. But in the Biden White House, if they're not going to lobby for policies in the Biden White House to continue restrictions and stay up in some sort of way, you're out of your mind. So that is a good move into our next article here. Our next article is laughable. Politico, written over here by Adam Cancrin. I can't say her name. I apologize. It was written today. So long, Omicron. White House eyes next phase of pandemic. Let's go into this one. Not the end of the pandemic, the next phase of pandemic. Listen to the phrasing here. The White House is preparing to move on from Omicron. Emboldened by falling case counts, the Biden administration is plotting a new phase of the pandemic response aimed at containing the coronavirus and conditioning Americans to live with it. Didn't he say he was going to contain it from the get-go? Wasn't that a campaign promise that he was going to beat it? He had a plan to beat it, and the first thing was to contain it. It's been over a year, and they're still working on containing, and now they are going to condition us to live with it? Who talks like that? What administration talks like that? Not a representative republic with a president that was elected by the people. They don't talk about conditioning Americans. That is socialist fascist bullshit where they have to condition you. That's brainwashing you. That is what conditioning means, to brainwash. Let's keep going on this train wreck. The preparations are designed to capitalize on a break in the months-long COVID-19 surge, with officials anticipating a spring lull that could boost the nation's mood and lift President Joe Biden's approval ratings at a critical moment for his party. Aha, there it is. There it is. It has nothing to do with COVID-19, nothing to do with health, as it never has. The only reason they're announcing something like this, where we might hear them say, like, we can try and solve, the new normal, we're going to get to it. We're going to work hard. Cases are going down. You never hear about big cases. The right reports it, but the left is very quiet. There's no more COVID trackers on all their things. They're not reporting on the numbers anymore because it doesn't benefit them, because Biden has oversaw he has had a worse plan against COVID-19 than Donald Trump did. And Donald Trump had no resources basically against it. Joe Biden has vaccines. Joe Biden has had treatments. Joe Biden has had tests. Joe Biden has had a ton of things. And he has oversaw the worst response on the planet. He's surpassed Trump's count by a long shot in a shorter amount of time in terms of number of cases. He surpassed him in number of deaths. He sucks. Granted, Delta and Omicron are more deadly. No, they're more spreading. They're not more deadly. They're easier to spread. But this is a guy that said he had a plan. He was going to beat it. He knew how to beat it. He knew how to do it. What the fuck has he done? Nothing. And they're looking to boost Biden's approval ratings. This is all about the midterm in 2024. They don't give a shit about you or the virus. Let's keep going. Biden and his top health officials have already begun hinting at an impending, quote, new normal, in a conscious messaging shift meant to get people comfortable with a scenario where the virus remains widespread, yet at more manageable levels. This is socialist, fascist bullshit. A conscious messaging shift meant to get people more comfortable with a scenario where the virus remains widespread, yet at a more manageable level. Now, let's slide real quick. I'm going to give overdue it aside here. Today, 12 countries roll back COVID restrictions. Israel scraps their green pass. Denmark has lifted all their restrictions, joining England basically doing the same. Other countries like Sweden, Switzerland, Norway, Finland, Ireland, the Netherlands, Italy, Lithuania, France are all starting to raise more of their restrictions. Masks are starting to go outdoors everywhere. No mask restriction. A bunch of places are saying you don't have to wear masks indoors. They're not making people show proof of vaccination anywhere anymore. Granted, America has been to this level, but it's in a state-by-state basis. The only reason other states, it's a half and half thing going on here. The Republican-run states, they're living free. They are living free. The Democrat-run states are living in authoritarianism. Joe Biden's trying to get you there to the authoritarianism side. But as other countries in Europe are starting to lift their stuff, and 2 countries are fully free because Denmark announced it as an endemic disease. It is not. They said, where's the quote here? It's an endemic disease. It's not a socially critical disease anymore. We have been 2 weeks essentially behind Europe in all of our cases and everything going on. This doesn't sound like he's ready to do something similar in 2 weeks. This sounds like he's ready to make this never ending. And he's going to prove all the people on the right that were saying this is a power grab. He's going to prove Joe Rogan correct, where Joe Rogan said that politicians don't give this type of power back. And he's proving it correct with this type of response. And Politico's running cover for him. Let's keep going. But it's a delicate operation. The White House is wary of declaring victory too early, only to get hit with another catastrophic variant. A half dozen administration officials and others close to the COVID response said, by the way, I will never accept that. Close to the COVID response. Fuck you. You have no sources. Officials are also anxious that voters will be disappointed by the idea of living with an endemic virus under a president who once pledged to shut it down completely. And they realize that it will take vigilance and billions more dollars from Congress to prevent the nation from backsliding into crisis again. So here it is again. Here is the punchline. We cannot politically afford another gigantic loss. So we are going to put rose-colored glasses on our terrible response to COVID-19, and we are going to try and make good and make you forget that we promised to shut this down. Because our numbers are in the 30s and we suck as a regime. And you're not an administration. This is a regime. Any place that doles out czars is a regime. Czars aren't in a republic. They don't belong here. Let's keep going. Quote, we are moving toward a time when COVID doesn't disrupt any of our lives, said one senior administration official, requested anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. But in order to get people to view the pandemic differently, they have to feel differently about the pandemic. So translation. And someone like James Lindsay would love this because he does the translations from the wokish on the new discourses. But in order to get people to view the pandemic differently, quote, in order for our messaging to change to brainwash more of our sheep, they have to feel differently about the pandemic. So we're going to get enough of our surrogates in the media and all the talking heads to tell you that things are different, things are changing, but you need to continue to listen and stay under our boot. That's all that is. We want to keep power while making you feel like you have more freedom. That's all that's going on there. It's a sleight of hand. Let's keep going. There was little serious talk so far about disbanding the COVID response team, though some burnt out aides have mused about leaving as soon as the spring. And as to what metrics will signal success against the virus, officials said they're still figuring that out and hope they'll know it when they see it. Let's stop right there real quick. The aides are going to leave in the spring because they know that they're going to get fucking destroyed in the midterms. So they're trying to save their political asses by getting away from this administration as soon as they can. Getting away for a little, let them take the bloodbath, and then try and jump on with anyone that's still left standing. That's what these aides are doing. They're politically savvy and they have aspirations higher than just being an aide. We're going to keep going. Quote, it's something we need to answer, the senior administration official said. If you talk to 6 doctors inside and outside the administration, you get 6 different answers. and we'll let Anthony Fauci decide who are the correct answers and who aren't, right? Is that what we're going to do? Because he is science, apparently. He is science. So whatever Anthony Fauci says, whatever St. Fauci at DCC, Lord Fauci, whatever the hell you want to call him, whatever he decides to go with from those doctors is what we're going to consider quote unquote science. Because they're not listening to the CDC anymore. CDC started saying that herd immunity is a thing. Natural immunity is legitimately as strong. According to their information from the Delta variation, there is a piece, you can find it, Google the CDC's most recent report on natural immunity. They said those that had the natural immunity have a stronger defense than those who are vaccinated. That is in the report. In the report. Go look that up. So that's hilarious right there. Let's keep going. For now, Biden's COVID team is counting on an expanding supply of vaccines and therapeutics to accelerate the transition into the next pandemic phase, allowing people to safeguard themselves against COVID-19's worst effects before and after infection. Regulators are expected to authorize the vaccine for children under 5 in the coming months, a major milestone in building out the country's COVID protections. The administration is also stockpiling new treatments like antiviral pills that are shown to significantly cut the risk of severe illness. So Biden is essentially doing what DeSantis has done the whole time. Getting vaccines to those that need it, getting treatments to those that need it, not wasting vaccines on those that could use treatments instead after they contract it. And on top of the vaccine for children under 5 in the coming months, fuck you. They don't need it. They don't need it, especially for Omicron now. They never need it. They probably will never need this. It is not shown to affect the kids under 5 in a large scale. In any way, shape, or form, even in a minor scale, there are very little. I can go, maybe I'll pull that up while I talk here, because I love to look at the CDC's information about deaths attributed to COVID-19, because they're accurate there and they do it by age and everything. It's a worse, it's the worst nightmare for the left because they're always trying to peddle their bullshit about how terrible this is. But you can look it up too. It's hard to find. They make it hard to find intentionally. Maybe I'll link it up here. And I will put it wherever I can to try and get more people to look at it, because it's a really valuable resource to go against the nonsense that they push here. But yeah, it is not necessary for those under 5. It might be something that they want to include if they determine this is truly going to linger around forever. Then it does pay to kind of maybe have a booster type scenario where, like a flu shot, where you can get it if you want. You don't have to get it if you don't want to. But overall, this has not shown to be a killer of kids, young kids. And that's just it. That is just the information here. So let's see. All sexes, ages 0 to 17. Let's look at this. Just 0 to 17. Deaths by COVID. And this number, the date as of the 2nd. So as of yesterday. 0 to 17. Deaths from COVID-19, 770. No, that's it. 770 out of the 880,487 deaths. 770, 0 to 17. And they're saying that protection for children under 5 is that important. 1 to 4 years old, 87 dead. 87 from 1 to 4 years old. Again, tragic because they're kids. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that 87 dead kids is a good thing. I'm not saying that 770 dead people, period, are a good thing. But man, that's really what we're going for. And then under 1 year old, there's been 200 deaths, which makes sense. They have a very weak immune system, but only 200 for a virus that apparently is so deadly. Come on now. And this is information going back from when they started, back from the date starting with this information is the 1st of 2020. This is the whole pandemic. They have been gathering this information. The CDC website here is gathering this information. There's been only 200 deaths for infants under 1 year old. That is a like 0.0000000 something percent of the deaths. So yeah, it's not necessary. It's not a big boon. It's not something, a major milestone in building out the country's COVID protections. It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit on its face. Let's keep going here. And after initial hesitation over the need for ramping up of the availability of at-home testing at the outset of the Omicron surge, the administration now views easy access to rapid tests as core to persuading people they can safely live with the virus. Again, look at the language here. And Politico is just running, if you're reading this just as a person that isn't very politically savvy and maybe just picked up this article, it was suggested to them in your Google swipe or something, your MSN network or Yahoo, whatever your homepage is. They're playing this and looking at it as Biden and them are trying to do a nice thing. They have to persuade people. They have to make them see it. And especially if you're an insane lefty who used to hate Big Pharma, then praises Big Pharma because they're giving them the vaccine, and then they're going to go back to hating them, which you're not allowed to do. I'm going to call out any lefty that does that bullshit. Because you made Big Pharma your God. You better fucking keep it as your God now. You are officially the party of Big Pharma. But persuading people they can safely live with the virus. Motherfucker, we could safely live with the virus right now. We don't have to be persuaded. Take off your mask and walk around. You are fine. Now, if you have a comorbidity, which means if you're obese, if you have any sort of diabetes, things like that, if you're old, you have a better chance of dying from coronavirus. You also have a better chance of dying from the flu or the common cold, from all this stuff. Health risks always make diseases worse. Diseases that a young, fit individual can beat off because they can beat off. Wow. Can beat. I'm not recovering from that one. But that a young individual can overcome. You cannot overcome that typically with most benign diseases. And the dangerous ones are really bad for you. So the whole entire persuading people they can live safely, just tell them to go outside. Go do things. But no, this is about power. The government needs to persuade you. The government needs to tell you it's okay. Listen to the government. They will make it all okay. We're going to keep going. The White House's post-Omicron planning comes even as the U.S. is still grappling with an explosion in cases and deaths. The nation is logging more than 400,000 new infections a day, with hospitalizations hovering around peak levels. More patients are dying from COVID-19 than at any point since last February, when the vaccines were only just starting to roll out. They just dunked on Biden right there. The fact that more people are dying right now than back when we didn't even have the vaccine fully rolled out is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You have all these tests that you're doling out now. You have treatments. You have 3 vaccines rolling out. And you, as a president that promised to abolish this, still don't have any answers. How did you idiots vote for this guy? You're getting what you deserve for voting for him. Like all the empty shelves, and it's not a myth. In here in Poughkeepsie, New York, I have empty shelves at my frequented Stop and Shop. So it's not a myth. All the empty shelves, all the raised gas prices. I can't talk in this episode, but all the raised gas prices, all that type of stuff is all because of this guy. Yes, COVID had a lot to do with it, but this is the guy that came in and said he was going to beat it and fix it. He has to be held accountable. He has to be held accountable. Let's keep going. The surge has exposed Biden's pandemic response team to harsh scrutiny over the belated distribution of tests and masks and further dented public confidence in the administration's competence. I don't know if it's competence or I don't know if it's intentional. Glenn Beck has been saying he thinks it's intentional for a long time, and it might just be. Let's keep going. Yet even as the U.S. enters the third month of its battle with Omicron, officials inside the administration have grown increasingly optimistic that the worst of the surge is over. The White House has clung to data showing steep drop-offs in Omicron cases abroad, a trend already playing out in parts of the U.S. hit first by the surge. The vaccines have held up against a new variant in the meantime, sharply limiting its risk for those who have gotten the shots. There's the propaganda. The vaccine has held up. It's done. What has it done? It hasn't done anything they promised. Besides, you have a less chance of dying. Okay. It's a really good pre-treatment. It's not a vaccine. This is not a vaccine we're dealing with, people. It's a solid pre-treatment. And I do recommend getting it if you want it. I'm not saying don't go get it, but don't let them play this up and say like it's doing its thing. They told us that we can't, if you get the shot, your chance of infection is very low and you can't pass it. What do you know? Plenty of people with the shot and the booster are getting it, and plenty of people with the shot and the booster are passing it. So get it if you want. It is an effective pre-treatment. You probably won't die or end up in the hospital if you have it. Just saying. I'm not against getting the treatment shot, but it's not doing what they say it does. Let's keep going. The U.S. vaccination rate still lags in comparison to other industrialized nations, further inflating the country's grisly death toll. Still, after what some aides described as perhaps the most fraught period of their pandemic response, there is a renewed hope that the White House can wrestle back control of the pandemic. Quote, all these things add up. When you step back and look at them, to us being in a very different place than when we were in February 2021, the senior official said, we have tools to protect people. Yeah, obviously you don't. People are still dying by a ton because you're an idiot and your response is terrible. Obviously you don't. The numbers don't say that you're right. And also, can we talk about the grisly death toll? We have said, God, my whole life, I'm 33 years old. Since I've been conscious, we are way too fat of a nation. We are way too fat of a nation. We are an obese nation. People in Europe come and walk around and say they never see more fat fucks in their life. You don't think that has had something to do with our death count? You don't think that has had something to do with it? You don't think that's had a lot to do with it? Obesity is a huge factor, is a huge comorbidity, and it is a big thing that kills people with COVID-19. If you are obese, number one, if you're severely obese, a good chance you're diabetic. Number two, it just attacks people worse that are obese because they don't have the same functions. Obesity is a bad thing. It is a medical issue. And it has been a severe comorbidity. And it's been a big one whenever they tell you, oh, healthy unvaccinated person dies. They were anti-vax and they passed away. You look at a picture of them, they're 300 pounds. That's not healthy. It's not healthy. So the grisly death toll, I really believe, has to do with one, people like Cuomo and terrible governors sticking older COVID-19 positive people in nursing homes and killing their elder population intentionally. And they all should go to jail for that. And number two, we're a fat fucking country and it went after us because we're fat. Let's keep going here. The shifting outlook has dovetailed with rising urgency over the need to reverse Biden's flagging approval ratings. With a legislative agenda stalled in economic record clouded by generational inflation, Democrats now view an improvement in the pandemic over the next few months as the party's only clear shot to boosting their midterm prospects. Among administration officials, there is similar widespread belief that Biden's popularity is closely tied to public perception of the health crisis, and that as Omicron surge recedes, so will voters' dissatisfaction with the information. There's a little bit of truth in that. It's hilarious they're clinging to this because they can't get their terrible economic agenda through. They can't get Build Back Better through. They can't continue to push their absolutely Marxist agenda through. So now they're clinging to the disease. And that is partially true because that is the sole reason why Donald Trump lost. Because the pandemic was hitting the worst during his time and the economy took a hit. And two things, when health and economy are bad, you're not going to survive that. That's just that's history. If there's a health issue, a major crisis that is unhandleable at the time, plus the economy is bad, you're kind of fucked. Right now, Biden still has a shitty economy, regardless of what they tell you. It is a bad economy. And the virus is on the upswing. There's more people doing what they want. Most people are just tired of the nonsense, and they see that Florida, Georgia, Texas, South Dakota are just fine. So they're like, why aren't we fine? In places like California, New York, New Jersey. But it's still enough of a thing. They're looking at the death count going, this moron said he was going to fix it. And I love to remind everybody, the man said he was going to cure cancer on his campaign trail twice. We're in year 2, and I haven't even heard him talk about his cancer treating plan. So let's hold back to accountable too. The moron said he was going to cure cancer. Hold him there. But he said he was going to solve this. He said he was going to eradicate it. And there is nowhere near, there's no sign of him even being close to that. So yeah, there is a tie to that. There is an inkling of truth to that. I don't know if he could dig out of it, but the fact that this is directly political might be the worst part about it. They don't care about their death count as long as they make it look rosy. Let's keep going here. The best political strategy is not to have it dominate the news every day, said Leslie Dock, a former Obama-era senior health official and chair of the Democrat-aligned group Protect Our Care. You want a felt experience in November where you're back to leading a normal life and you feel like the president's accomplished things and address the issues you care about. So there's the rub. Remember that paragraph. I'm going to read it one more time. The best political strategy is not to have it dominate news every day. You want a felt experience in November where you're back to leading a normal life and you feel like it's the president's accomplished things and address the issues you care about. So start looking for that in messaging on the left-wing media, your CNNs, your MSNBCs, your New York Times, your WAPOs, your HuffPost, all those. Start looking for them to start telling you things are going back to normal. It may be a new normal, but it's going back to normal. And they're going to start encouraging people to go out and live their lives again, slowly but surely. Be cautious, but go do it. Be brave. Do the brave thing. Go out there. Still wear your mask to feel good, but don't be afraid. Go to that concert. Go enjoy that, but do it all before November. Because we want to make sure that when Biden stumps with these people at the midterms, he can say, look, folks, you're all back. People are back to work. You're back to going to concerts. I'm back to seeing 15 of you at my rally and 7 of you are my staff. We're here. We're doing it. He wants to be able to say that. She gave away the game here. She gave away the game. Don't put it in the news anymore. So it's going to be out of the news as much. They're going to tell you to go back to living, and they're not going to cover COVID as much anymore. They're going to stop covering it. It is going to be a blip. You know what they're going to cover? They're going to cover the January 6th commission even more ad nauseum. They're going to cover what Donald Trump says. They're going to cover Truth Social when it comes out and how pervasive and how much of a threat to quote unquote democracy it is, even though we're not a democracy, we're a representative republic. But they're going to cover so many other things. They're going to cover what Mitch McConnell has to say, Lindsey Graham, Tucker Carlson said, what Joe Rogan's doing. They're going to distract from everything to get you to think that COVID is gone and it's okay and it's good. And I'm going to tell you, COVID is fine. You go out and live your life. Take your fucking mask off. Go live. It's done. Omicron is not bad. Omicron's contagious. It ain't going to kill you. If you're a healthy individual, you're fine. But when you see the messaging switch, remember that paragraph. This is where it's coming from. Last 2 paragraphs of the article here. Yet, even as it maps out the next stage, the White House has ruled out making a splashy show or a major announcement regarding regarding a hard pivot back to normalcy. There was a fear among aides of repeating last year's July 4th Freedom from the Virus celebration, an event that turned politically disastrous weeks later when the Delta variant fueled a swift resurgence of the pandemic. And though it faces pressure to back off some of its more notable and onerous public health policies, the administration is also unlikely to drop its indoor masking recommendations, which are seen as among key tools for preventing new outbreaks. They're going to continue with the propaganda about masks. Again, masks don't work. Anthony Fauci is right about one thing. In the beginning of this whole entire thing, when he said masks are useless to prevent you from getting a virus, it is true. It is very true. Unless you are fit testing an N95 minimum every day or a more rigorous one, fit testing, proper sizing, proper fit testing, no facial hair, making sure there is no air in or out. You have a proper seal every day. every time you take off the mask, every time you put it on, and that you're not touching your face, not touching your mask, not adjusting your mask. If you are not doing those things and you're just wearing a cloth mask or a surgeon's mask, you're not protected. Not from something that's contagious. You're not protected. And you're not protecting anybody else. So again, propaganda. Find it, look for it. Officials instead describe plans for a more subtle shift over the next several weeks toward touting Biden's achievements in rolling out vaccines and treatments and emphasizing the everyday things that people can do again if they're vaccinated. An approach that multiple individuals familiar with the response described as an attempt to convince people that they'll soon be able to relax after 2 years ruled by COVID-19. So everybody, I'm going to announce right here, at the start of every show, we are going to mark how many cases are in the United States, how many deaths are in the United States, and what the plus is. We're going to do it up until the election and past it, because I'm done with this. They're going to tout his rolling out vaccines and treatments, emphasizing everyday things people can do again if they're vaccinated. So again, let's do us versus them. If you're vaccinated, you can do things. If you're not vaccinated, you're the freaking unclean. We don't want you in our society. And we're going to talk about his rolling out vaccines and treatments. So yeah, when you blocked monoclonal antibodies from Florida, citing that it doesn't work for Omicron, but newsflash, Omicron isn't still, the Delta variant's still around. It's not like it's gone away completely. Omicron's dominated. There's still people getting Delta. Let's keep going. Quote, we can really get much more active, less fearful, and a normal style of living, quote, if cases keep declining, said one of the people familiar with the response. We have to reset people's expectation that they can get back to joy. So yes, after we have destroyed their psyche, made people go insane, make them praise masks, beg to the gods of big pharma for the vaccine, now we have to fix you. Government breaks you down, government builds you up. Benito Mussolini, what is it? Everything for the state, by the state, nothing outside the state. Hitler, fascism, Nazism, whatever you want to call it, fascism, socialism. There it is. We have to do these things. This government, the state needs to be able to tell you when to be happy, when to be sad, when to panic. Think of the way they talk, everybody. Think of the way they talk. Let's keep going. That live with it approach is far from the vision Biden laid out in the opening days of his presidency, when many in his administration believed the virus could be eradicated through basic health measures and widespread vaccination. But since then, the White House has run headlong into deep Republican resistance to its mitigating efforts and struggled to combat extensive disinformation campaigns about COVID-19 vaccine in particular. So let's talk about that one right there. Deep Republican resistance into its mitigation efforts. What resistance? They signed massive spending bills. They just didn't want a bunch of your pork bullshit in it that you threw in for tree equity and for LGBTQ stuff and CRT and other critical theory bullshit. If it had nothing to do with the vaccination, if it had nothing to do with COVID-19, they wanted out. That's not resistance. That's good governance. Don't spend on bullshit. And disinformation campaigns about COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah, here's looking at you, Robert Malone, who was the inventor of the first 9 mRNA vaccines on the planet. Yeah, that's who they're trying to talk about. Let's keep going here. Combined with its own testing and vaccine messaging missteps and a mutating virus, there is little remaining hope of stamping out COVID-19 for good. While nearly 3/4 of adults are fully vaccinated, just 45% have gotten the booster shots, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention data. Yeah, because they were lied to, people. Because they were lied to. They were told, get these 2 and you're good. And then, here's the booster. You got to get it. So yeah, of course, people told them to fuck off, as they should. Keep going here. The vaccination rates for children are even more troubling. They're more troubling. Among kids 12 to 17 years old, only 56% are fully vaccinated. Fewer than a quarter of 5 to 11-year-olds have gotten full vaccinations. Let me get here. Let me pull a Joe Biden here and start to whisper into the mic. Because they don't need them. From 17 down, they have not been shown to be people that catch it very often or spread it very often. And yeah, I'm going to get the person listening going, yeah, but I knew Sally and Timmy that got it and they brought it home and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you know what, though? They didn't die. They weren't even probably that sick. You know when they probably found out they got it? Because someone in their class maybe got tested positive. So everyone tests, and that's how they find out if anyone has it. And half the time, the kid finds out they tested positive. They have no symptoms. And now they have a vacation for 10 days, now down to 5 from the CDC, because apparently you don't have to quarantine as long for the same exact disease from back in. It's all arbitrary fucking numbers. And I hate the arbitrary numbers about this. Let's keep going. Now I'm really serious, the last 2 paragraphs here. And while the administration has enough supplies for the current crisis, 3 people with knowledge of the matter said the Omicron response has largely depleted the government's COVID funding. Some officials working in the COVID response warn the administration needs vast stockpiles of vaccines, treatments, and tests to ensure it's not caught off guard by yet another variant. There's Politico again, carrying the administration's water. We need more money. We need more money. We don't want to let you guys know that we follow modern monetary theory and we're just going to spend more anyway because we don't care. But we're going to set this up here that the government needs more money. So the constituency, get behind the government. They need this. Quote, we are out of money. One of the people with knowledge of the matter said. The administration has floated tucking additional COVID funding into an upcoming bill that Congress must pass to keep the government open. But the amount needed to build out its supplies of vaccines and therapeutics could stretch into the tens of billions of dollars. It's still unclear how much lawmakers will be willing to appropriate or whether they'll be able to reach an overall funding deal by February 18th deadline. That's the end. My last state on that is, God, I hope they don't. Hope they don't. Don't do it. Go into sequester. Go into sequester and force them to start defunding and getting rid of certain places that are useless. Go for it. I'm not knowledgeable. I'm not going to lie. Not knowledgeable how many, but I've heard how many places are redundant. We don't need all these, the agencies we had, the NSA, the FBI, the, what do you call it? The, what is it? The CIA. And there's a ton of them, Homeland Security and all of them. There's so many security agencies and intelligence agencies. What'd they say? There's 13 or 16 when they were doing the stupid impeachment. That is who all these agencies. We don't need all these intelligence agencies. Start there. Start there. Get rid of all of them. FBI needs to go. FBI needs to go. Get rid of the FBI. We don't need a national police force. Sorry. We don't need a national force of detective police. Get out of here. But yeah, we ran out of money. We need more. Give us money. We're going to tuck it in somewhere. But you know what? Let's close the government down again. Best thing we could do is close the government down again. We don't need to spend all that money. We don't need to continue funding them. We don't need to raise the debt ceiling. And I hope the Republicans stand strong, but God, Mitch McConnell's leading them and John Thune's dumbass is in there and Mitt Romney. So you know they're going to side with the stupid Democrats. But man, they shouldn't. Man, they should not. Let's see what type of tomfoolery they're going to try and tuck into this deal too. Guarantee you're going to see some build back better shit they're going to tuck in there. Watch. And then they're going to blame it on the Republicans when they have to close down the government. You watch. They're definitely going to tuck in some things, a lot of things in there. Alrighty, that's the episode. I know it was pretty long. Cover two articles. 2 articles I think are important. Important to your pocket with the Amazon one, and then important with the way you live and what they're going to do and what they're trying to do now. There's been warnings from a lot of people on the right and some people on the left, such as Joe Rogan, such as Bill Maher, such as Tim Pool, such as James Lindsay. Yes, all people on the left. They're not on the right. But they've all talked about the fact that the government has power and they're going to do what they can to keep it up. And especially with the midterms coming, the last thing the Biden administration wants you to know is that freedom works against this. Is that Florida has done it right the whole time, that Texas has done it right, that Georgia has done it right, that places that have been free, basically after the 2 weeks of sold the spread, really started to reduce all the mandates and things like that. Never mandated, but started to take down restrictions and started telling people to live free again as quick as they could. It's worked. It's worked just fine. It's worked just fine. They're not the worst places. They're not even that bad. They've been the most free. Their citizens have been the most happy. Their economies have recovered the best out of anybody because they got back to work. So we'll see what's going on. Pay attention. And please always keep your ear to the ground. And let's not let the left win anything in the midterms. Let's sweep them. And don't sweep them with friggin' neocon bullshit establishment Republicans. Primary those assholes. Primary them out. And I'm not saying to go in and, if it's endorsed by Trump, I'm going to vote for that guy. Don't just do that. Don't be a blind moron. Trump has been wrong. Trump has been wrong about a lot of people, okay? So don't just go for whoever Trump endorses. Do your research on what the person has done. Are they a true populist? Do they lean libertarian? Are they a real constitutionalist? Those are the litmus tests. Those are the litmus tests. Not if they talk well. Look at their track records too. But I'm going to end this marathon because it was I definitely went long. I don't know how long I went, but it went long. I always appreciate everyone that listens. I really do. You all mean a lot. If you can, please like, share, follow, subscribe, rate this 5 stars. And I know sometimes it's weird and wacky. If you're someone that's on the right, to try and recommend podcasts to anybody that's not on the right, but please go recommend this to everybody. Tell everyone that I do a pretty good job here. Even if, like I said, even if I suck, tell them to come on and ridicule me, but come listen. Because even if you think I'm an idiot, even if you think that I'm full of shit and that all I do is spread propaganda, you might hear something that latches onto you, though. That's something you never heard. Something that might just perk your ears up and say, you know what? I think he's wrong, but let me at least look it up. Let me at least look it up. Let me at least go there, because I use CNN a ton. I use other places. I give my own shtick, but maybe it causes you to look something up and go, he was right about this one. Maybe I should talk about this more. So let's go for it. Let's keep getting this out there. And with that, I appreciate everyone for listening. Socials, go search the Alex Cuesta Show wherever you have a social media, and I'll be there. The show will be there. And please continue to watch yourselves. Continue to support freedom, fight for it, and call your state representatives if you're part of the 27 states that have ID me involved in it. Please do, because it is imperative we work on getting that out there. Can't control what Biden does. Enough idiots voted him in. Can control what goes on in your state with your state senator and your state representatives. So do it. All right, everybody. See you later. Talk to you guys tomorrow. So long.